Hello, I'm Dick Corsell, and welcome to Community Care Network Connections. Community Care Network is a parent organization of Rutland Mental Health Services and Rutland Community Programs. And today's show is on Westview Court, a program of Community Care Network. Westview Court is an intermediate care facility for people with developmental and intellectual disabilities who require medical care. And joining me today is Gloria Quinn, VP of Developmental Services for Community Care Network, and also Linda McElhinney, who is the director of Westview Court. Gloria and Linda, welcome to Connections.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to talk a little bit, just to start out, and Gloria, I would like you to talk a little bit about the Community Access Program in general, but to preface that, many people in this community are familiar with developmental services as they have evolved over the last 20 years or so. A lot of folks remember, of course, the Brandon Training School, which was in existence from the early 1900s, and it closed in 1993. But not many people really understand what has happened since the mainstreaming and closure of those types of facilities, and the Community Access Program at Community Care Network is such a response. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about what that program is and some of the services that you offer.
Well, Community Access Program is the part of Community Care Network that provides the services for folks with developmental disabilities, children and families, as well as adults. So we serve a little over 400, about 419 individuals and families, and we provide residential services. Westview Court is one aspect or one program under a residential services end. And we also provide services, residential services, through a shared living provider network. We provide employment supports and day services for adults with disabilities, and the day services are broken up into individualized community-based services as well as services that are based on kind of community campus type of structure. And we also provide case management services. And you talk about the services having changed over the past 20 years. That is the case nationally, and it has very much to do with the deinstitutionalization movement. And in this country, in Vermont, as you said, the Brandon Training School was closed in 1993. Services everywhere have become much more individualized and person-centered, primarily Vermont being one of the leaders over the past 20 years in the country. Employment is a big focus, and supporting the sustainability and self-sufficiency of families also is a big focus.
That's good. Linda, let's talk about Westview Court. Most people are unfamiliar perhaps with the total Community Access Program and what they do. Gloria has given us an indication of some of the types of programs and services they offer. But Westview Court is probably not known. Could you talk a little bit about what Westview Court is and what are some of the services that you provide at that facility?
Well, let me start by saying, when you mentioned Brandon closing, at Brandon there was an infirmary where many of the individuals that required intensive medical needs would have to be transitioned elsewhere, and so the inception of Westview Court came about again with the idea of keeping it as a home-like setting. Westview right now is located in Rutland, and it is in a community off Bellevue Avenue. It is a home-like setting. We have 6 consumers that are residents that live there in a home setting, but do require the medical needs of what an individual might require that would be in a nursing home, a typical nursing home, but it's non-institutionalized setting. The services that we provide at Westview vary. As I said, with our 6 individuals that reside there, they come with many diagnoses. They have the developmental disability, but also the intellectual disabilities as well. When you look at the services, we have a physician that is our primary care physician, but also our medical director, who visits once a week, so the consumers or the individuals have care there at the home and don't have to go out to the office. We are fortunate that we have contractual services with dietitian, also with our hospital. We do a lot of business with them through enteral nursing, which is basically skin care and artificial feedings, tube feedings that we provide. We have the Hospital for Speech Therapy, Occupational Therapy, and Physical Therapy. Those are some of the programs that we do have that we're aligned with the community on.
So what is some of the, you mentioned some of the services that are provided, and this is in a residential neighborhood. And one thing, when I first saw Westview Court, one of the things that struck me was how uninstitutional looking it was. It looks like a home with some accessibility enhancements, but it is a very comfortable type of setting. You mentioned some of the services and some of the work that you've done to collaborate with medical providers. What are some of the other types of services that are offered for the residents in addition to the medical services? Because they're living there, obviously. This is their place of residence.
Well, one of the things that Westview is all about is, again, a family concept. The staff at Westview, we do all our own cooking. So all the meals are prepared by the staff that work there. We also do all our own laundry and things like that. So we are very active within the home with the consumers. Consumers' activities vary a great deal. We do a lot of different activities with them, from gardening to cooking, and we do a Friday night movie night for individuals, to, again, the group setting, the family concept. We also are involved with outings in the community. Our individuals go out once a week to some of the community activities, be it concerts in the park, our holiday parties that we have, going to the airport to watch the planes come in, going to the radio station to see what goes on in the real life world of radio. So those are some of the activities that we're involved with. Some of our individuals that we have do require the nursing going out into the community with them because of their specialized needs that they have. So we have to coordinate when we take the individuals out, that there's a nurse that goes out with them in the event that they needed some emergency care. Our nursing staff, we have nursing 24/7, so there's always an RN on for each shift, and then we have support staff that work along with the nurse in providing the nursing care that's needed. We do physical therapy there. We do other medical needs would include artificial feedings, so that individuals are fed through tubes. We do such things as we have a couple of individuals that have artificial airways, or trachs as they're known as, by which we have to care for that. We change that ourselves. On a regularly scheduled basis, the tubes are changed by the nursing staff.
This is a very complicated endeavor. Now, you, as the director of Westview Court, are also a nurse, and
yes, I am.
Have been for many, many years. Gloria, you are relatively new to the Rutland region, having spent
Yes, I am.
Most of your career out of state working in developmental disabilities in other states. We talked a little bit earlier, and you had mentioned the fact that mainstreaming that happened in the early 1990s in Vermont, being one of the earlier states to embrace that concept, has taken hold across the country. Could you talk a little bit, just overall, in terms of how developmental disability services really have changed, since mainstreaming has taken hold, and also how, with mainstreaming, our communities have adapted and embraced, and families have done the same?
Yeah, it'll be nice to be able to clarify some of that. Deinstitutionalization, primarily the largest part of it started in the 70s, actually. And for many of the states that have been able to achieve that total, all institutions closed, Maryland, for instance, just closed their last institution, I want to say 2 years ago, in Vermont in the 90s, and in Rhode Island it was in the 80s. Not all states have achieved that. In fact, there are many states that still have institutions. So again, what I would want to point out is that although I've been in the field for over 28 years, Vermont has always been considered one of the leaders, which is one of the reasons I've chosen to come here. That means that they have chosen to individualize supports for folks with disabilities to really help families become as self-sufficient as possible, and to do everything in a way that is inclusive and community-based as much as possible. People belong in their communities. Communities and individuals belong to each other. And in many cases, in other areas of the country, services have been, people have been taken out of their own communities and even out of their own states and are being served elsewhere in large congregate settings. That is not best practice, and Vermont has always been considered to be out in the forefront. So over the past 20 years, many of the folks that we provide services to, about over 120, are served through what we call shared living providers, and we subcontract. That's for another time and not necessarily this show, but that's very progressive, and that's where there are people that we subcontract to who bring people into their own home and share their complete lives with individuals, and there are amazing things happening for those folks. And people who have very intensive medical needs, it's harder to place, and for those folks, being able to support them in a way that they have their own home and can live in a way that is very individualized based on their pace, their interests, their abilities. Being out in the community means we take people where they really want to be and how they want to be involved. Some people might be interested in cooking, other people may be more interested in gardening. And you had also indicated that we're really focusing on people, supporting them with their families and relationships. This is important for everyone, everywhere, and for sure that's something that you focus on at Westview Court as well, for the folks that live there.
Let's talk, Linda, about a typical day at Westview Court.
A typical day begins in the morning shift at around 7 when the shift changes and the day staff come in. And the individuals are then awakened, and their routines begin for the day of getting them up and ready with the hygiene and getting them ready for breakfast and bringing them out. One thing I think that it's noteworthy is that all of the individuals that reside at Westview Court are wheelchair bound and they require total care. We have a couple, 2 or 3 individuals that are severely neurologically challenged, which creates a challenge for us. They're not able to truly communicate. They're nonverbal, and when you try to communicate, when the status of the individual is such that you're hoping what is communicated to them is being understood, the response may not be there. So that does create some challenges for our staff, but you learn how to pick up subtle differences or changes in one's condition and then can react to that. So our typical day is once we get our breakfast prepared, which is, a variety of things. We do like variety. So the strict cereal every morning is not the case. We become quite creative, and we could do omelets, and we'll do waffles. We'll bring in a waffle machine and make homemade waffles. Of those individuals that are able to take nourishment, their food has to be blended, so the form changes significantly, but I'm being advised that the taste is still there. So that is wonderful. After breakfast, the individuals have programs that they do. We want to keep them busy, and we try in their individual support agreements that we develop with them, we set goals for them, and we set up ways of which they can meet the goals. In particular, one might be a physical therapy goal where we want to have somebody maintain wheelchair mobility, but in order to do that, we need to provide exercises to maintain the upper body strength. So we would have exercises for that individual to do that. Another one might be that an individual, it's important for that person to continue ambulation in a specialized device that they have. It's a specialized walker that's used just to maintain that mobility and bone integrity. So that's a program that's done. Once in the morning, several may go out on an activity. We usually take one individual or two individuals out at a time in our van to something that's going on in the community or someplace special that they would like to go. We then, while the others are within the home, we maintain other activities for them. Like I said, we're going to be doing the gardening class this year, which is going to be wonderful. Crafts that they do, they have arts and crafts that are being done where they create items, and especially around like Mother's Day, they do something very special that they hand make for their moms. We do, and Christmas gifts are the same. We do specialized days. We've done a day in Paris where our consumers are not going to be able to go to Paris, but we can bring Paris to them by being very creative with not only developing the scenery, but also the food. So we've done that. Usually then it's lunchtime by which we prepare our lunch, and our lunches vary from, we'll do soup and sandwiches to various other items such as perhaps a barbecue. We grill out, even though at the end of the preparation the meal may not look like a barbecued piece of chicken, it is a barbecued piece of chicken and they can taste it. So after lunch then becomes the time for which we do the readings. And it's amazing, or the music session. We may do music periodically with the individuals. Generally, because they are all wheelchair bound, it's important to maintain their skin integrity. So we have all of the individuals are put down to rest for a couple of hours in the afternoon. And then around 4-ish or so, they are, again, get up, again, do more activities, then have dinner around 6:30, and then do an activity after dinner, and then prepare for the evening retirement. And usually most of them are prepared for bed by 9:30 at night. They do have times by which they can spend time in their rooms. They all have private rooms where they can watch their favorite television shows if they so wish, or if they have special music that they want to, the individual wants to listen to, they listen to that. So they're very busy. They're kept busy.
It sounds like that. I want to talk a little bit about the staff at Westview Court. And one thing that was so impressive to me and to many others was several years ago, was before Gloria arrived, when we had the Noricane back in April.
I was there.
And power throughout this region was disrupted, including at Westview Court prior to the installation of a backup system. But what was so impressive, and Linda, you led that effort, was how the staff became as creative, I think, as individuals could be in that situation, and were able to continue providing that care, in this case an alternate location, and being able to sustain all of those wonderful things and activities that the people who live there were accustomed to. I'd like you to talk a little bit about the staff, because you've explained, in particular, with having some residents of Westview Court who may not be able to communicate clearly. I would think the staff and their tenure, they would be able to sense when things were out of sort or whatever, which requires a special relationship and longevity. Can you talk a little bit about the staff that you have there and the type of people that are employed at Westview Court?
As I said, we have nurses, RNs, that are there that are very skilled in nursing assessments, so that they are the key to picking up subtle changes in an individual's condition. Individuals are very sensitive in that they can change quite rapidly because of all of the medical problems that they may have, so that their condition can change very rapidly and immediate care may be needed. So we have a process by which they're assessed, and then implementation of a plan of care goes into action. Our support staff vary. They've been there since the implementation of Westview, and some are very new. They learn very quickly how to relate to the individuals that are residing there. And because people, or the residents there, are not able to verbally communicate, you can notice subtle changes in someone. Perhaps they're not as active in one particular day, or perhaps their sputum may change a color. There may be, perhaps their respiratory rate may change. Perhaps they're a little more tired. There's maybe a little more pallor in them. These subtle changes are picked up. And when you put what I call the picture together, and you use through the nursing process, you use the tools that are given, which is the vision of the nurse, the auscultation, listening to what their lungs sound like, what their heart sounds like, looking at their blood pressure, those types of things. You can put together a picture of, to describe to the physician that something's not right here and what do we need to do. So those are some of the tools that we use. I remember our transition, or I believe we called it back then, it was a camping trip. Mm-hmm. And I believe it was like for 2 or 3 days, by which we literally had the individuals transfer to a large open area down at CAP, which was the wellness center. And we brought their mattresses to be put on the floor because, again, safety issues were such. We couldn't bring down their beds, so we had mattresses by which they were cared for on, which meant that the nursing staff and the support staff were providing care on their knees. But we had to create it in such a way, an atmosphere that was not fearful, but that was to be a fun experience. And so we did create that, and we did unusual things. Again, we did our own cooking. Since the individuals are on multiple meds, we had to bring our med carts with us down there. Certainly there was only one shower room that we used, but they enjoyed it. The consumers, or the individuals, actually had a wonderful time. And it was a storytelling at night.
Sounds like a camp out.
It was like a big camp out in the bad weather. And we all took turns doing meal preparation and special meals to make it a special occasion.
Yeah, it certainly, having seen that personally, it did cause one to pause about complaining when your power was out for a little while. When you saw what your staff went through, the care, the concern, and the creativity that they applied in what was a very stressful and difficult situation, I think that's certainly a testament to certainly to your leadership, but also this program. Just talk a little bit, Linda, about how you involve families at Westview Court. Obviously, this is a facility where people live. This is their home, but these individuals, many of them have families that are local, parents, brothers, sisters. How do you involve the family?
The family is part of our team, and they are very important to us. We encourage family to come and visit. We encourage families to share meals with us. Around the holiday time, they are invited to have, let's say, a Christmas dinner with their loved one. We like to do special things with them. The families can take certain consumers out without a nurse. That they go into the community and spend time with their loved ones. The family, we really encourage them again to come in and spend time with them. We are planning for a kind of a special birthday party for one of the individuals at Westview to share with a family relative. Very special for the two of them. So the meal will be a home-cooked meal where it will be under our awning out on our deck. So we're planning that right now. The family, I always encourage them that their input is of great value. They know their loved one the best, and they can guide us as far as what they believe would be in the best interest of the individual. We make sure that if they are not there to go to doctor's appointments with the individual, or if the doctor comes in and has something special, that there is a communication right away with the family or the guardian. New meds starting, that we consult with the guardians and make sure that they're aware of what it is, what it's used for, side effects to it, all of that piece of that. The family is involved as part of the individual support agreement, where they come in and they help us and the individual set the goals And how will we measure them? And what do we want it to look like? So they are really active participants in the care of the individual residing at Westview.
This is great. In the last couple of minutes, I'd like Gloria and Linda just talk a little bit about if Westview Court was not in existence, and these wonderful services that are provided in this home setting were not available in the Rutland area. What would happen? Where would people be if it weren't for Westview Court?
Well, I think one of the things that I want to say is that people, it's really fortunate that there are services and good supports available for families to keep their children at home as much as possible. That becomes very challenging for many families and not even possible for some families. And so you want to be able to support people in places where they're cared for, where they're loved, where obviously their medical needs are attended to in the way that they need to be, and that they can have a life that is good and meaningful to them and is about growing in capacity and all those things. We definitely have some shared living providers who do extend and support people in their home, and it's hard to find people who have that capacity, again, because there's so much care that's needed. So having said that, Westview Court having that capacity to serve people in that way so that they can be in a home that is their own and have the kind of care that Linda and her staff are able to give them is wonderful and necessary for them. And I know that families are very, very grateful to have that for their children, for their adult children. So if not there, also maybe a nursing home, level of care. That's what this is, and they get to be in their own home, and that's critical. So.
And I also think that, again, the acuity of the individual, a couple of them, that one needs to be able to do emergency treatment right away. If the trach tube fell out, that somebody needs to put it in, and we don't have the luxury of a respiratory therapy department in the home. Someone has to do it. So that's where we have that skill of the nurses who are able to take and reinsert that tube to maintain that airway. We have the expertise of the nurses where when there are significant changes in an individual, that there's immediate response there to get them to the emergency room. We have some, as I said prior, some really neurologically challenged individuals whose condition changes quickly. And one needs to pick up on that readily and respond readily to the situation at hand. So there's where, it's 6 consumers versus if in an extended care facility on a wing, it may be maybe 15 or more. And that becomes a challenge. So that I believe that the level of care that they're getting at Westview on that one-on-one, it's one nurse per shift, and she's overseeing the 6 consumers, but is basically a one-on-one for all of their treatments and activities that will go on with medical needs there. So, I can't say enough about the skills of the nurses there and the great job that they do.
And also the fact that it really is a home, and it is in a neighborhood environment, and I don't think that can be overlooked in terms of the strategic placement of Westview Court and how it has been adapted from what at one time was a single-family home. I think it's very important, in particular, as we look at being a community and a community of individuals with all different needs, that we can provide these types of services in neighborhood-type settings with a neighborhood that embraces those services. And that is I think, a testament to all the work that's been done with that particular program, and it's good for the community to have a better understanding of what that facility is and why it exists and how things have changed so dramatically over the last 20 years in Vermont and nationally in the way that we have addressed developmental disability issues.
Yeah,
So-
and we are looking to partner with communities actively, and we're throughout Rutland County. We're looking to create those partnerships because it's good for the folks we serve. It's good for the community as well.
Right. Well, Gloria Quinn and Linda McElhinney, I want to thank you for appearing on Community Care Network Connections to talk about Westview Court. Gloria, we will be talking more with you and your staff about the Community Access Program as later on this year.
Yes, we will.
I'm Dick Corsell, and you have been watching Community Care Network Connections, and we will see you next time.